I stopped fighting the law a long time ago. Actually, I never really did. Well, there was that one time.
I was going to say, I need to hear the story of when you did.
There was that one time. How you doing? Welcome in.
Not fighting the law.
That's good. Good for you.
I'm abiding by the law.
Good for you, son. Alongside the law-abiding Elijah Campbell.
I'm raging with the machine today, not against.
I'm the former outlaw that is Jay Phillips. And those of you who know me well know it's really not at all true.
What outlawing have you done? Taking more than one Little Debbie's cake at the cookout when you're supposed to only take one?
Yeah, I'll even give it back. I'll leave a quarter.
Too much honesty.
That's right. I'm a good person. Didn't have a great sports weekend.
No, you did not.
I did not.
As you're wearing your Denver Broncos shirt,
I am,
still proudly.
and let me tell you why I am. Thank you I was going to bring it up.
Put this right on a tee for you.
I'm happy. I mean, the team has not made the playoffs, in a long, long time. For a little while yesterday, they played well, and then they didn't. But I'm excited for where the future's going. I like the fact that this draft will not include the concern over a quarterback, but what you can do to enhance your quarterback's status.
Good place to be.
What you can do on defense here or there. So that's nice. It didn't bother me as much as I do think Jim Harbaugh is going to be successful. It didn't bother me to see Jim Harbaugh's team go down in flames and his hotshot quarterback have a terrible day. I'm not wishing poor performances on anyone, but but I'm here as a fan. Support the team, as Putty would say. I'm here to do that. My favorite soccer team yesterday lost to one of their heated rivals, and they looked like absolute crap. And I'd love to say something stronger, but I can't.
FCC, you have rules.
Dawn's team yesterday, strong, and Saturday. So the Dawn's team, at least for the teams since I do want to see USC teams do well. That was great. And then Saturday, and that's going to be the focus of what we do today. I'll be honest. I mean, if I think on Friday as we got out of here, and I know Terry had asked me when we did the handoff on Friday before our show started. You and I discussed it many times during, but the last things that we basically said, I was like, listen. I don't see it. And I asked you, I was like, one of the final questions I asked you, Elijah, on Friday, where, much like I asked about Alabama on Wednesday night, where is the area that South Carolina can utilize and have this be a one-score game, or not a one-score game, a single-digit game at the under 8 timeout? And you gave us some good answers, and it was a lot about getting to the line and just making Auburn a little bit uncomfortable in certain spots. And guess what? Carolina did it. I'll be perfectly honest with you, y'all, because that's what I am with my audience. Auburn closed as a 17.5-point favorite. I figured they'd cover that spread. I figured Bruce would show no mercy. And I felt like, and still believe to a large degree, that he has the roster to do it. Both teams suffering from injury situations. For the Gamecocks, if they don't get right pretty soon, that's going to really, I think, be a problem. I mean, you basically played 2 guys off the bench the other day because one guy came in and played a minute. But your other 2 played well off the bench. But that's not sustainable in this league. Mm-mm. And really, I think both teams fortunate that these officials Saturday afternoon at CLA didn't call a lot of fouls. Because in games, I told Elijah this morning, in my opinion, games in college basketball that don't get out of the 60s are typically what we all like to call rock fights, where there's just a lot of banging and shoving and pushing and grinding, and that means fouls. And I don't think anybody on either team had more than 3 fouls.
No, there wasn't any significant foul trouble. I mean, Dylan Cardwell did foul out late in the game.
Okay, very late. That's true. That's right.
That was really the only foul.
That's right. That was, yeah. But beyond that, they're just, and I think for the Gamecocks, you got the box score in front of you?
I do, yeah. In terms of personal fouls, I mean, you had 3 guys with 3.
That was it, right?
Yeah.
No 4s.
Nope, no fours.
And no foul outs.
Conyers, Zach Davis, and Nick Pringle all had 3. Colin only committed 2 the entire game.
So South Carolina, played well. You got to, man, I hate to say it, man, but Nick, you got to hit one of those 2.
Yeah.
You got to, man.
He absolutely does.
You just got to hit a
you
free
can't
throw
go
there.
scoreless in the last 5 minutes. Like you go into the last 5
Auburn
minutes
almost
of the game.
did.
Yeah. I mean, you go in, really without the free throws, they don't. I mean, they got a lot of their points at the line.
Yeah.
And one of that was a foul at the very end of the game to try to get the ball back. And I'm not going to lie, I actually did really like the play that Lamont drew up. At the end of the game, the Bryce Drew play. Yeah. Because they're going to foul you. Yeah. Because they're going to try to foul up 3.
Yeah.
You got you a look. You just
I thought with the timeout, I thought South Carolina, because there was 4.5 seconds or something like that. I thought South Carolina would inbound to midcourt and call timeout. That was what I was thinking he might do with it. But instead, Morris got a look. Granted, a look from 40?
Yeah, about 40 feet.
Yeah, but he got a look.
Yeah, and these players are capable of hitting that shot.
They can hit it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a less than 10%er, but it was not a bad look, just a long look. The point being overall is that South Carolina, I don't know if that was their best game of the season or not. I thought they played really well against Clemson, obviously, and you had to kind of keep grinding against Clemson as well, but you did. And it makes me wonder, is the performance against Clemson or Auburn an anomaly? Or are the combined 55-point losses against State and Alabama an anomaly? Because you also got beat pretty bad in Bloomington, Indiana. Mm-hmm. It's hard. Or is the answer yes? Yeah. And is that the team? It's hard to tell. But I certainly, and I don't think anybody coast to coast, border to border, thought South Carolina would go into that game and lose by 3 points.
No.
And have a chance at the end. If you make a free throw, you do some things. If that ball goes down, lots of ifs, but that it was a one-possession final score was not something that I had foreseen. I don't think you did. I don't think a lot of people in the building did. I know there were a lot of Auburn fans there, but
yeah,
yeah,
and they were loud.
Yeah, but you've also played your probably most difficult 3-game stretch of the season. So can you come back and start to win games? Can you translate this confidence-wise to Nashville on Wednesday, to Norman on Saturday? I mean, you can from a theoretical or hypothetical standpoint, will you? Oh, that's why they play basketball games. But it has to be somewhat encouraging that you did this. But you've got 15 games left, but you've got to go do it again and then again and then again. And I don't know if it's there. I will find out. I don't know.
And that's a really good question. I like to go back to the question that you asked of, is the Clemson and Auburn game, are those anomalies, or is Mississippi State and Alabama? And you tell me what the common denominator is in the Indiana, Alabama, Mississippi State games. What happened in Indiana? Colin got in foul trouble really early, didn't get to play a ton of minutes. Right. Mississippi State and Alabama, what was the big takeaway after those 2 games?
Yeah,
Colin didn't score in double figures.
Right.
And objectively had his worst games. Right. One of his worst games of his career at South Carolina in those 2 games. What does Colin do against Clemson? Score a ton of points, get a lot of guys involved. What did Colin do yesterday in the first half of that game, which I think anybody who's watched this team this year would agree, that was the best half of basketball you played all year, to be up 6 on the number 1 team in the country going into halftime. Colin had 18 points in that first half.
And as big a lead as 9?
Yes, 9 was the biggest lead. But the crazy thing here is there's a direct correlation. If Colin is playing at the level that he can, at the level of an NBA draft pick, which we know he is, that's the talent that he is, he gives you a chance to win every game you play in. And if you get some help from 1 or 2 other guys around him, I love the minutes that Arden Conyers got off the bench. He played 30 minutes, hit a couple big threes.
He was feeling it, man.
He had a couple of really big shots. He was feeling it. Benjamin Bosmans-Verdonk gave you a lot of the little things possessions. Like if you look at Ben's box score, 10 minutes, didn't score a point, grabbed 5 rebounds, had 3 assists and a block. But all of those were really big. And he got several defensive stops going one-on-one against Janai Broome because, as Lamont said, Ben knows where the weight room's at, clearly. And he did a really good job of handling Auburn's bigs, and that was one of the things defensively that you did to stay in this game. And then, of course, you got a double-double out of Nick Pringle, too. You get 12 and 10 out of Nick Pringle to complement the stuff that Colin does. That's a really hard post tandem to guard. That's the first thing that Bruce Pearl said in the press conference was, I got to, tip my hat off to the South Carolina front court. Like, those guys were really tough today. They played great defensively. They basically neutralized Janai Broome and Dylan Cardwell. And really, if it's not for Auburn getting a lot of help from the three-point department from Tahad Pettiford and Miles Kelly, they probably don't generate enough offense to come out of CLA as the number one team in the country. So that's really the big thing that I look at is you need to have Colin be that 20-plus point per game guy and get some supplemental help in situations of the game, and that's going to give you a chance against whoever you play in this league.
And what's different, in terms of what the coaches said, I don't have the answers here, so I ask this rhetorically. I mean, certainly, Elijah, you can chime in with the way you look at the game and break it down. What does Carolina learn about itself especially from Colin's standpoint the other day, or going back to the Clemson game? Why? I mean, it's easy enough. Well, hey, opposing coach knows best player, neutralize, go win. I get those kind of things, right? Mm-hmm. But you just played the best team on your schedule.
You did,
and he played fantastically well. It isn't like Auburn went, oh, that's right, the Murray Boyles kid's good. Dang it, why didn't we? No,
what do we think about that?
No, they knew they needed to at least find a way to neutralize him. So how much of it was him? That's another thing. I don't know, because we've seen, you talk about roller coaster, man. We have now seen, and South Carolina lost the other day.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying this is great in the sense that, okay, with a lot of games left, you saw some things you liked. You and I were making the analogy today of how we portrayed the Alabama football game. Now, some fans didn't want to hear that, and that's fine. That's fine. I still disagree with them, but that's fine. I saw a lot of things that day in Tuscaloosa that I liked.
Yeah.
And a lot of people saw a lot of things that they liked. And from that point until the bowl game, South Carolina won every game it played. And Lenore Sellers became not a household name, but a much larger name.
Legitimized himself a little bit.
Can Colin do some of the same thing? It's different. I'm not trying to equate the two, but, okay, in a loss against a great team, it was in your building, which may or may not have been a difference. I don't know, because I don't Saturday in a specific sense, I'm not so sure.
Auburn brought a lot of people.
Yeah, but so there are similarities there. You like enough about what you saw, but what are you going to go do with it?
Yeah, that's the big question. You can't lose at Vanderbilt now.
No,
and proved yourself that was a fluke.
Right.
Because that's what you're automatically going to think about.
And the computers, whatever it's worth to people, the computers give Vandy about a 73% chance to win this game as we speak.
Because this is still a good Vanderbilt team. Yeah. This is a very much improved Vanderbilt team. You got to be able to show, especially with someone like Colin, before I hit the break, I think the biggest thing was Auburn played him straight up one-on-one. They didn't send a lot of help. And Colin straight up beat Janai Broome on the dribble to the basket and got to the rim whenever he wanted to against what's one of the best players in the country. Mm-hmm. Vanderbilt doesn't have a big to stand up next to Colin.
Right.
They are going to throw bodies at him.
Right.
They are going to do everything they can to get the ball out of Colin's hands. Is this a game where you can get enough three-point shooting on the road? You're going to have to prove that you can win in those type of ways too, and this is going to be another one of those tests to be able to prove that you can win when another team looks at that tape and says, we'll do something differently, make other guys beat us. That's going to be a huge test, and if you can do that on the road against an improved Vanderbilt team, now you're seeing signs of progress.
Winning motivates competitors, but in terms of what Colin's looking at for his future, everything he can do, every slot in the draft means more money for him.
Cha-ching, cha-ching,
yeah,
cha-ching.
And that is a thing, and it is a motivating factor. More on that. We'll have some sound from Coach Paris, more thoughts from Elijah. Come back on the other side, though. The big news nationally is happening out in Dallas. We'll do it when the postgame show returns. Love doing my yard work. Tell you all about that a bunch. Love working with Ben and Matt and the crew at Cato's Power Equipment. You heard me talk about that. Now, here's something great for those of you who are thinking about either getting things serviced so you can do a better job, especially those of you in the industry, or it could be at your house. Or if you're looking at something new, right now through the end of the month, Cato's Power Equipment has free pickup and delivery within a 30-mile round trip and very discounted rates if you need to go a little bit longer. Listen, if you have something you love, need to get it serviced, don't have a way to get it from wherever you are to the shop at Cato's, they'll come get it. It's that simple. Yes. Again, this is good for all Toros, Graveleys, Aaron's, and they're flexible with some other things too. So if this is something that you could take advantage of, now is the time to do it. Plus, see the completely renovated showroom now with all kinds of great things in stock to get you going in the new year. Cato's Power Equipment, 4012 West Beltline Boulevard. Check them out, Cato's. Welcome back into the postgame show on this Monday afternoon. Jay, Elijah with you. Sound from Coach Paris coming up in a bit. Dawn Staley's team with a really nice win yesterday. Auburn, despite the close win on the road against an unranked team, does go to number one in the country.
As they should.
Yeah.
It's an earned spot.
It's January. I don't.
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't.
But it's cool
It's fun.
It's cool to put in your little media
It's
packet
fun.
that, yeah, we're number one in the country.
It's fun.
For the first time since, this year or whatever.
It's fun.
It's a cool milestone.
Go win a tournament.
It's cool for schools who have not been number one in basketball a lot.
Sure.
Like Duke or North Carolina.
Sure.
Probably wouldn't care. Kentucky probably wouldn't care. That's big for Auburn, though.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. We'll come back around to the Gamecocks in just a bit. Got some football news to get to as well. But speaking of football, we'll go to the NFL because, like them, hate them, anywhere in between. When the Dallas Cowboys are making big news, it's big news for everybody. And today it was announced not so much that Mike McCarthy was fired. I think this is the workaround here. Mike McCarthy's contract expired, and it will not be renewed. So he didn't get fired.
No.
Right? He's
Not brought back.
Not brought back. So it's nice.
Like Marshall with
It's
Charles
good.
Huff, except Marshall won a conference championship.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
That was really weird.
His contract officially expired last week, but there was in the contract a 1 week negotiating window that was exclusive to Jera and the Cowboys. And that was going to that window was going to close tomorrow, but they went ahead and said, yeah, we're good. I mean, I suppose whatever the differences were over the weekend, they just knew they were insurmountable, and so that's that. So he doesn't get fired. He just won't be retained. He was 49-35 in 5 seasons. First year, COVID year, a bunch of injuries and stuff, not very good. Next 3 seasons, 12 wins a year. This season, a whole mess of injuries, not very good. You can't control the injuries. You can control having 2 division champions in those 3 years of 12 wins and only having 1 playoff win. And I think more than anything, maybe Jerry and Stephen Jones just looked at that and said to themselves, even if he's coming back, he doesn't have Dan Quinn coordinating his defense anymore.
That turned out to be a big deal.
It did. And that maybe it's just time for change. So there you go. Now, this does, in my opinion, become because and if you didn't hear, by the way, maybe you were doing things other than paying attention to sports this weekend. Mike Vrabel is the new coach of the Patriots, to the surprise of absolutely no one.
Nope.
So that job is off the board, and it was filled by the person who seemed, in the availability realm, anyways, to be the one that was best for that gig. So there you go. So there's that one. I said the other day, in my own personal opinions, the Bears opening was the most attractive just because of what they have and what's coming down the pike with the new stadium and some other things. And I'm certainly open to debating it. It's not like you will listen to my opinion. I am right. Some people might think I want to live in New Orleans, or I want to live, out on Jacksonville Beach. Whatever. I mean, again, I'm not really here to die on that hill, I assure you. I will say this, though. The Dallas Cowboys head coaching job is now open. Love it, hate it, whatever. This becomes the most attractive job in the National Football League because it's the most attractive job in the National Football League.
It's the biggest brand of the National Football League with a coach, with an owner who's willing to pay you a lot of money to do whatever it takes to get to a Super Bowl.
Look, it may not be the most famous team on the planet, but it is the most valuable team on the planet. I still would contend that Real Madrid is the biggest team on the planet, but the Dallas Cowboys are now worth like $10 billion, according to Forbes. And it takes somebody strong enough to do it. Again, Jimmy Johnson, I told Langston, because Langston's out there, I was like, hey, Langston, who's going to get it? And Jimmy's not walking through that door. And
I don't think Jerry would let him walk through that door.
He walked. Jerry tossed him out that door, 30 years ago, and well, you see,
there's basically a restraining order between him and said door.
So who, right? I mean, or better yet, if not who, what, and by what? How many boxes are there to check?
Oh man, you said what? I was like, Jay's about to advocate for them hiring a dog. This is going to be awesome. I've seen Air Bud. Sometimes it takes thinking outside the box.
C-3PO.
I could see your head spinning. I was like, oh, Jay's about to come up with some heat.
Now, what are you looking for in a coach? Are you looking for
still a human,
proven winner? how many of them are available?
Yeah.
Are you looking for that bright mind that's going to finally unlock everything that Dak is capable of? I don't know.
Kinda.
I mean, again, I like Dan Quinn. I don't know if Dan Quinn is a great coach, but he's off the board anyway. But I'm saying, do you want somebody like that who's, because maybe where he was the first time as a head coach, not a great situation. Yeah, I don't.
Doing the Raheem Morris thing like what the Falcons did.
Yeah. Are you gonna call Dan Lanning? Do you want somebody who, again, people say he's great with managing people, and then you can hire the other people to do the X and O part? Again, I don't know. I feel like because he's available, that a guy like Pete Carroll would check a lot of boxes. But Pete's, again, he might be the youngest 73-year-old on earth, but he is 73. I don't know if that matters.
I mean, would you hire a coach if you knew you only going to have him for like 3 or 4 years?
Here's the thing. In the NFL, I might. Because to go back to the analogy of windows opening and closing, believe it or not, man, the Dak Prescott window is probably closer to closing than it is to when it opened.
Oh, for sure, because it opened 3 years ago.
Can you find a way in the next 3 years to build enough to finally go do it in Dallas? Because the it is only one thing.
Yes.
And Jera wants to do that before his window closes. So, is Pete that guy? Maybe. And people will want to work for Pete, coaching-wise.
Yeah.
And money, staff money is zero issue.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
Can Pete and Jerry coexist as another element of that, too?
For 3 years? With Steven as the buffer, Senator? Maybe.
Tell me the Jones family has a lot of buffers. They're going to need it if you're going to hire somebody with Pete Carroll's acumen.
Steven would have to be the buffer. But, I mean, am I advocating for Pete Carroll to become the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys? Not necessarily. But I wouldn't, I don't know if I'm going for the next young, under 45 coordinator that's ready for a job. Jacksonville, sure. New Orleans, sure. The Dallas Cowboys, I mean, the last guy, listen, they did that with Garrett, and they kept him a long time. But the guy they replaced him with had won the Super Bowl. He didn't just go. He won the Super Bowl. I think you got to go do something like that again.
Maybe, but he won a Super Bowl.
Hey,
which is still a Super Bowl, granted. But then what did he do the last several years?
Yeah, not much. Not much.
I think that's kind of what gets lost with Jared.
I don't disagree. I
think one of the worst things you can do is recycle somebody who's proven not to work towards the end, and that'd be my one thing with Pete Carroll. Is as great as a coach as Pete Carroll is, how were his last few years in Seattle? I
think it typically almost always goes that way, doesn't it? Because you lose whatever. I don't know. Again, not advocating.
Maybe.
You Cowboy fans out there, and you know who you are, hit us up on the text line. Who you want? 803-404-6100. Even seeing some people saying, get Mike Tomlin out of Pittsburgh and bring him to Dallas. And I thought,
if you could do it.
Interesting. Maybe that's time. I don't know. 803-404-6100 is the Postgame Show. Talking some Carolina hoops. Gamecocks fall to Auburn on Saturday. Dawn Staley's team with a nice win over Texas yesterday. Dawn with another victory over Vic Schaefer, whether it's been at State or now at UT. So good for them. By the way, Gamecock women remain number 2 in the national poll.
Mm-hmm.
UCLA still undefeated, number 1. UCLA got all but 2 first-place votes. South Carolina in second place got none. Notre Dame got 2. I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. Again,
Notre Dame's really good.
Yeah. I'm not gonna sit here and make a big deal out of it. That was interesting to me.
That is interesting.
So take it as you will. I love this. Staying with the Cowboys. Again, if you haven't heard, Mike McCarthy not fired. Mike McCarthy and his entire staff simply all working on the final years of their contract with the Cowboys, and none of them had their deals renewed, at least at this point in time. Some of the staffers might. I don't know.
But Mike's not.
All-time winningest coach in Cowboy history based on winning percentage, not on number of victories.
Oh, wow.
All-time Dallas Cowboy winningest head coach based on winning percentage is?
That'd be Mike McCarthy.
It would not. It's Barry Bleepin Switzer.
Oh, of course. I mean, there for a good time, not a long time. Compiled.
Who, again, the most famous thing Barry did while he was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys is take a gun to the airport, which is not allowed, without clearing it first. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Can't do that. Don't recommend trying.
No, don't just try to sneak your gun into the airport. Even in the 90s, you couldn't do that.
No.
Yeah, frowned upon.
Very frowned upon.
Barry Switzer, 62.5%.
Tell me it's not Dave Campo?
Wade Phillips is second on the list.
No way.
He is tied, believe it or not, Wade Phillips is tied with the legend that is Tom Landry at 60.7% winning percentage. Mike McCarthy fourth.
Hey, it's not Wade Phillips. No, it's Bill Parcells was coaching the team. I was going to say, not Bill Parcells' fault.
No.
Wade Phillips' fault, whoever was coaching whenever Tony Romo dropped the snap.
And people, you would think, like, well, what about Jimmy? Again, remember, Jimmy suffered through like a 1 in 15.
But yeah, he was there for the rebuild. It was a hard rebuild.
Well, I mean, listen, that's why Jerry fired him, right? Because Jimmy was getting all the credit. Well, because Jimmy did all the work.
Yeah, Jimmy was pretty good at what he did.
I mean, Jerry,
a good program builder.
Like Jerry, it wasn't Jerry's idea to do the Herschel Walker trade. Now, he had to sign off on it, but it wasn't his idea. It was Jimmy's idea. Jimmy is the dude that convinced a lot of people to come to Dallas. Anyway.
That trade single-handedly sparked.
I didn't know this until the other day. There was a story on the Cowboys, but I guess out at the Star, there's also like a mini museum of sorts for the Cowboys.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff at the Star, man. That is quite the complex.
Maybe it's just a full-on museum as opposed to a mini museum. I don't know. I've never been, but one of the exhibits is solely about the Herschel Walker trade and how it redefined the Dallas Cowboys. And I was like, that's solid.
That's cool.
Yeah.
They do a lot of good stuff over at the Star. It is a remarkable complex. If you are a Cowboys fan, got to take a trip out there at least once.
Yeah. Should we have gone to do that when we were there for media days?
I've been once. All right. Don't care.
How far is it from where we were? That's like a long way, right? Because they wanted us to go to the
they want to go to the stadium,
to the Rangers stadium too, which is right near there, right?
Yeah, Frisco would have been a little bit of a drive.
Yeah, I'm not going that far.
Especially on a bus, which we would have had to been riding a bus.
Well, even if I take an Uber, what's that going to be, like $100?
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
I wouldn't want to do that.
Think the company would have paid for that?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
They would have teleported you back to South Carolina. They'd have found the technology to teleport you back here just for asking.
I've yet to put in an expense in my career that has been rejected, but I would like to do that just once and just see what the reasoning might be. I'd be like, no, this was total work research.
We had to go to the Cowboys Museum.
And if it had been, not that I go to them, because I don't, I assure you, but let's just say it might be an evening of grown-up entertainment. And I'd be like, well, apparently this is where all the players like to go. That's
called journalism. It's big J journalism. You're doing your job. Yeah.
I don't. And would the company go, oh, well, that's a legitimate expense?
I'd be like, James Harden. In order to understand James Harden, I must know where he dwells, and I must understand how he dwells and whom he dwells with.
So
I will then fully understand the player and the game.
I think. Anyway, let's come back around to it. Again, the Cowboy job is open. Mike Vrabel may have been the best unemployed coach.
I think so.
I threw out Pete Carroll. I mean, okay, Elijah Campbell is. I'm giving Elijah Campbell like 2 minutes to be Jerry Jones. Who you got?
Man, there are a lot of different ways you can go, and I think one of the things you want to do is unlock your offense. And I think your best offensive seasons were when we had someone like Kellen Moore as your play caller. Then maybe Ben Johnson can.
And then
do
you
that,
fired him.
Yeah, then you fired him. But is Ben Johnson the guy that can run the whole operation? Is he the CEO that it kind of requires his job to be? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know him well enough, but I do know he's an absolute wizard of a play caller, and what they've done in Detroit is phenomenal. And again, it takes more than just play calling. They did a really good job with personnel and drafting and hitting on the right guys. But right now, man, if you're able to get Mike Tomlin from Pittsburgh, I know they haven't been what they've normally been in the 21st century, the last few years. But at the same time, I don't think it's particularly Mike Tomlin's fault. I think they've whiffed on draft picks. I think they have drafted the wrong positions of need. They finally got an offensive coordinator in there who can call some plays in Arthur Smith, and you got a quarterback in Russell Wilson who is really good. You got the best years out of him in the late stages of his career.
They won 12 games, right? How many games they win this year?
I thought they won 10.
I'm checking.
And then they got absolutely smacked up against Baltimore. But, I mean, maybe if Mike gets another change of scenery.
You're right, 10-7.
He could work some magic with a team like that because Mike Tomlin's the ultimate adult in the room. But I don't know if Mike Tomlin would want to work for Jerry Jones.
I'd probably not.
So that's
that's just like pulled. I mean, the Rooneys are so patient and good, and Jerry's patient. Listen, Jerry catches a lot of flack, and he deserves a lot of it because he's the owner and he's the general manager. But at the same time, he's not rash. He doesn't do like he's not constant. He's not George Steinbrenner of the 70s and 80s.
Right.
Where he's just, 6 months fire everybody. He's not. He doesn't do that.
No.
I'll give him full credit for that. He doesn't do that.
He's not David Tepper.
He is patient. Right. He is patient. Some have said with Garrett, he was patient to a fault. But I think he always felt like Jason's managing my team. He's managing my people. And that's what I come back around to. Like, I think that's fair. And I'm not here to defend Jerry Jones, but at the same time, I've said a lot. I think Jerry, the owner, is a really good owner. That they get everything they need. You mentioned the facility. They have all the trimmings and trappings. They play in a fantastic stadium. They do have good. They're kind of like, I don't know, man. It's kind of like all those decades we talked about the Boston Red Sox. And I know we've had that conversation before. Like, there was a lot of people that were casual that would directly equate the Red Sox and the Cubs because of their long World Series championship droughts. And I'm like, no.
The Red Sox still were winning games.
The Red Sox won a lot. They went to the playoffs. They were good.
Constantly.
They were always, I say always, but they were typically a good to above average team. The Cubs stink.
And never contended in their division for a long time.
The Cowboys don't stink. The Cowboys go to the playoffs. They need to get back over the hump after the 3 Super Bowls of the 90s. But he's a good owner. And he's a pretty good GM. And everybody, well, he should fire he's not firing himself as GM.
No.
He's just not.
That's his toy.
I got an interesting hit on Twitter about a name for the Dallas Cowboys. And I want to see what Elijah Campbell thinks about it and what the rest of you think about it. And it comes to me from a known Cowboy fan. So let's see what y'all think. Postgame Show, coming back. All right, welcome back into the Postgame Show. More portal news over the weekend. Portal recruiting starting to wrap up now that school starts. School starts back today. So if you want to be in for this semester, again, you might have another couple of days tops. That's about it.
Yeah.
Drop ad goes on this week.
Schedules get purged.
By about Thursday, pretty much need to be in. Now, again, every once in a while, the president of your university or chancellor, depending on where you go to school, could maybe wave that magic wand. But
they do have some magic in that wand.
Yeah, but they don't always have magic to go tell a professor to not worry about the fact that this particular person coming into your class hasn't been in your class for 2 or 3 weeks.
It's harder. Yeah, the magic only works so far.
Yeah. Our guy John, who may call us later, known Cowboy fan, says to Elijah and me on the Twitters, from what it sounds like, one name to keep an eye on with the Cowboys is Sark, Steve Sarkisian. So I punched it up on the interwebs, and sure enough, there are multiple pieces out there that throw his name around. I did not know this. Apparently, Jerry Jones has a grandson that is on the Texas football team. Did you know that?
I did not.
Says Jerry Jones has family ties to Sarkisian with his grandson playing under the head coach. So, there you go. I don't know, man. I think Sark is pretty happy at Texas. I mean, listen, I don't know. Again, it's the Dallas Cowboys. It's the Dallas Cowboys. And all of us have a certain amount. Look, I am not a person who believes that the word ego is always a bad word. I think far too often over time it's been like, well, his ego couldn't get out of the way. We all have a feeling of self-worth. And we all have a feeling of ability on what we can do to advance ourselves. And ego can be a positive motivator. I don't know what Sark's is. You know, UT gave him a real opportunity after some downtime to be not just the head coach again, but the head coach of a major program. So I don't know. He seems to be a good manager of people. He seems to have, as we've talked about a bunch, not let the political climate that always exists in a place like Austin get in the way of rebuilding the UT program. That's a positive. He is a great offensive mind. He could get in there and really unlock anything else that Dak has to offer. Seems to surround himself with some really good coaches. Yeah, it's not a bad choice. If that's something, you know, that he wants to do. I don't know. Is Sark that guy? I mean, I'm sure you could do worse.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think he'd be high up on the. I don't know.
That's the thing. The hardest part about making the jump is the management of grown adults that are making more than you. Yep. You know, and like at the point now, yeah, it's different in college football now because players are making money, and some of them are making a really good money, but they're still not making more than you, right? Like that's one of those ordeals. The power structure of a locker room in the NFL is significantly different, and some guys have a harder time handling that than others. I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, like your Steve Spurriers, your, you know, Urban Meyer especially, right? I mean, I've heard some firsthand stories about Urban Meyer's tenure in Jacksonville that indicate that exact very same thing, that he had a hard time managing the power structure of an NFL locker room and front office and franchise. Nick Saban, same way. It's a lot different.
I think Urban also had a hard time, and I know you've told me before about some of the firsthand information you've been able to get. I would also say Urban didn't realize, wait a minute, I don't get to go bring in anybody I want.
Yeah, I don't just get to get whoever I want.
I mean, that's one of the biggest differences.
Build my roster.
Right? You know.
You can't hoard the talent in the NFL.
So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, you know, and how quickly Jerry needs to move. I feel like I don't know, man. He's got, and I even saw somebody on Twitter. It's just somebody. Oh, how you feeling when you wake up in the morning? It's a little stiff. Yeah, stresses of the holidays have passed, but the physical ailments still lingering. Time for you to get into the Joint Chiropractic Centers. Their goal, simple, improve the overall health of patients with affordable, convenient chiropractic care and to maintain and prevent reoccurring problems. If you've never been to a chiropractor before, for just $29, you can head over to any of the Joint's locations and you'll get a consultation. Ask questions. They're there for you. Get an exam. Get a chiropractic adjustment. If it's for you, you'll know it. If it's not, hey, you'll know it. They're FSA and HSA approved. And again, convenience is paramount to them. You never have to worry about appointments. They're open 10 to 7 Monday through Friday, 10 to 4 on Saturdays. Don't have to worry about insurance. You just show up, you get what you need, you're gone. It's that simple. Again, 4 convenient locations: Harbison, Forest Drive, Roberts Branch, Sunset Boulevard. Remember this, you don't have to feel bad to feel better at the Joint. 4 o'clock on this Monday. Welcome back in. Second hour of the Postgame Show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia. No, sorry. Somebody's going to come down here probably and make me close it. But until they do, I'm doing the whole ask for forgiveness, not permission. I like these big windows, man. What you got against big windows? And you should, you know what, right now, you should be riding high. Let me tell you why. Because you, Elijah Campbell, have won the latest edition of the Wild Card Showdown. Yeah. You got a golf clap?
Oh, man.
You want to clap for yourself?
I should have had that prepared.
You should have.
Yeah.
I kind of, you know, but congratulations, man.
I'll take that. It was a good week. It was a good week for your boy.
You know, you should be
On
out
the
there
picks.
gloating to all these folks as traffic is now back and brisk on Gervais Street across from the Capitol in beautiful downtown Columbia, South Carolina. Elijah went 4-1. So did another of our listeners, Dakar, also went 4-1. Dakar got to choose first, and on the tiebreaker statistic. And Elijah, even right when Dakar chose, Elijah went, oh, man, because he was basically thinking the exact same number. And so instead of doing 1 yard different, the tiebreaker stat, by the way, was pass yards for Jordan Love against the Eagles in yesterday's playoff game. That was our tiebreaker stat. So Dakar had chosen 208, which clearly Elijah had written down and wanted. He's like, well, I'll give a little cushion.
He just read my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Read my mind.
So Elijah chose 214 yards.
Went up just a little bit.
Jordan Love yesterday threw for 212. So Elijah wins by 2 yards as they both go 4-1. With that, Elijah has now vaulted past me as we near the end of this year's contests. We still have a few left. Elijah now 47, 41, and 2 against the spread. Yours truly is 45, 44, and 1. I went 2 and 3.
I have a 2.5 game cushion now.
I got both the college games, as did Elijah, as did Dakar. We both had Notre Dame cover the spread. They did. We both had Ohio State cover the spread. They did. I had the Steelers covering the spread. They did not. I had the Green Bay Packers covering the spread. They did not. And I had the LA Chargers covering the spread as road favorites.
Not
they
close.
did not. Elijah, though, again, got both the college games right and got the Eagles and the Buffalo Bills.
The Broncos made me sweat that a little bit.
No, they didn't.
For 2.5 quarters.
I told Tim Frisbee on Twitter it was the pants.
Yeah, I don't love the orange britches.
The pants. I mean, they'll do, what do they call it in the NFL now? They have a term for like a kitschy when a team wears like all one color.
I forget.
But the Broncos do that in Denver. They'll wear that all orange. But those pants with the white and the blue, that was that, and then they had the orange socks yesterday. I didn't.
No.
And again, as somebody who's
Uniform
grown,
malpractice.
I've grown up around here, but I've been a Bronco fan since the late 70s. So I've come to accept a certain level. Like today, I'm wearing a Denver Broncos long sleeve T-shirt, but it's a navy blue shirt, and the orange is in the lettering and the logo.
Right.
I'm not a huge fan of orange. But with the Broncos, I've just learned to accept it, right?
Well, yeah. Well, when you're wearing Broncos gear, I mean,
I'm
it's
good with
pretty evident why you're wearing the orange.
Yeah, but I don't.
Those sexy 70s style
Those
looking
Frank
throwbacks.
McGuire jerseys, yeah.
Where it's got the south up top number below that Carolina with like the little curve.
I love those, man.
Almost forms like a little semicircle.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. Those are the best. It's the best uniforms they have by a mile.
Not even close.
And I've noticed they've been wearing them on Saturdays, and I like that. I love a good, detailed uniform plan. Like one of my favorite things about watching the Lakers as a kid, lifelong Laker fan. But I always knew as a kid if they're wearing white, they do it on Sundays. So I tune into a Laker game on Sunday at Staples. Then they are going to be wearing their white jerseys, and it was awesome. It was a nice little tradition for a while. They've completely broken that since then. But I liked the themes. I'm cool with on Saturdays rocking the throwbacks. But what I am saying also is they look so good that the good Lord will reward you for making the correct fashion choices.
Well, and when you said that about Carolina, I go back, to they had the throwbacks against Akron, the full on 1980 look, but they then wore that helmet like 5 more times, I think, right? A few,
kinda, yeah.
I have to go back and look, but listen,
The throwback helmet was
it's
sick.
It's fantastic,
Marvelous look.
and I'm not going to beg, right? But I'm going to. I implore Coach Beamer and the team to just make that the helmet.
The permanent helmet. Oh, I love that. The permanent white helmet, at least.
Well,
like the black uniforms are cool. The garnet helmets are cool. When those get broken out.
And I look, I don't mind sounding like dude who's been around here a while now. I remember how cool it was when Coach Morrison came and Carolina went to the garnet helmet. It was different, and just after that was 1981 and 82, after all the excitement of what George was doing with 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons and winning a Heisman, and again, then Coach Carlin gets fired, and then Richard Bell year they lost to Furman. It was just awful. And then Coach Morrison came in, and you talk about culture change, and that was a part of it, right? But part of it was those cool uniforms, man. And then wearing the all garnet in '84 and the fire ant defense and all that kind of fun stuff. It was great.
Stuff matters.
And it took a while. I mean, Lou brought the white helmet back. So, I mean, through Sparky, through Brad, they wore the garnet helmet. Trying to think, and then Lou, last year's when they had that black, that was the black helmet, and that didn't work out as well as people wanted.
I still thought it was a good look.
It's a cool.
I liked it at the time.
It's cool.
I was also like 8 years old, but I liked it at the time.
I don't mind the white helmet, black shirt, white pant. And every so often, I suppose the black helmet is okay. I don't know, man. Just that throwback helmet, it just looks so good. It just looks so good. The stripe.
And they took care of business in the games.
Yeah, it's just a good looking helmet. But I'm with you. The McGuire era uniforms,
beautiful.
That's just a good look, man. It's just a good look.
Significant upgrade than the ones they wear during the week.
So we've talked some about the Carolina loss on Saturday already, and we'll talk about Dawn's team here in a few as well.
Dominance.
The bigger issue, for one thing, I know, Janai Broom went down, got his ankle rolled up on one of his own players when they were down there on the defensive side. The good news for Auburn and for Janai is that he will not need surgery, but he is expected to miss at least 2 weeks. It could be longer. I guess they like to call that the high ankle sprain. Mm-hmm. But it'll be at least 2 weeks is what I saw this morning out of Auburn. Probably longer.
I'm guessing 4.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll probably see him late February.
Yeah. But I guess, we'll see. I mean, he's young and in good shape. Maybe he heals up quicker. We'll find out.
It was scary, though, man, at the time. The energy in that building, it was quiet.
Yeah.
It was very quiet.
Well, because you didn't know. I mean, it looked bad, and it's one of those where, when you land like that and you don't know. I mean, any of us that have been hurt, like you kind of do that mental self-inspection for a second. Mm-hmm. Like, am I hurt? Oh, man, I think I might be hurt. Like that. Like that's what,
I gather exactly what's happening. He looked like he was in a lot of pain.
Yeah. But Carolina's going through it, too, differently.
Yeah.
And what is that going to look like?
You're going to see a lot more Morris Ugasuk in the starting lineup. I mean, with Jamari Thomas being out for, I believe, 3 weeks as well. It's about a potentially 3-4 week injury with his sprain. That you're going to need somebody to come in and fill in that starting role at point guard. And I think Morris and Jacoby are going to take a lot of turns, bringing the ball up and down the floor and initiating your offense. I think that's what you have to look forward to seeing. I mean, Morris didn't play his best game on Saturday, especially from a shooting standpoint. But defensively, I thought Morris guarded Auburn's guards pretty well for the most part. There were a couple times. I mean, I'm going to be I'll be taking a few clips from this game and putting it, on the game TV to kind of be able to elaborate a little more by showing you as opposed to telling you. But There were a couple times where Morris fought through screens, and that's one of like this team's defensive principles is you can get screened, but you can't stay screened. And Morris a couple times took away easier looks from Auburn's guards by a refusal to stay screened and going around those and being able to contest shots really, really well. So I thought defensively, if he can give you those minutes and then he can finally start knocking down threes. I mean, 1 for 6 from 3. You knew eventually he wasn't going to shoot red hot all season long. But he's still at 40% for the season. I think he can get to a spot where he shoots in relatively high volume and keep it, 35 to 40, which would help you, especially without Miles Studi in the lineup. I think you're just going to see a lot more of Morris, and you're going to see a lot more of Arden Conyers as well. And I thought Arden gave you about 30 really good minutes on Saturday. And Arden put you in a position where you could have won that game.
Let's get a little bit from Coach Paris. Cut 4. Let's start there. Again, you want to find silver linings when you can, especially with a lot of season left. Here's Lamont Paris post-game on what was positive, even in a loss to the number 1 team in the country.
All right. Well, thought our guys. I mean, this is not just my assessment. I think about watch the game, could tell that our guys played really hard and with a good level of physicality, of aggression, of energy, of spirit and emotion. And so I think some of the basketball things that happened for us that were positive, whether on the offensive side or the defensive side, I think we're a byproduct of those factors. So really happy with what the game looked like, what the body of work ultimately looked like. Just wish that you could make a play here or there on either side of it that ultimately affects the outcome of the game. But they have a good team. The number next to their name would say that, but my eyeballs tell me the same. And so, loaded with a lot of talented players. Hopefully, Janai Broom it's nothing too serious. I think it looked like his ankle, but hopefully it's something where he'll be back sooner rather than later. But I thought our guys fought hard and played well and managed the game effectively for a large part of the game.
They did. Dare I say most of the game. They managed it well because I thought there were many times when Bruce probably could have called timeout and, turned it up to 11. And even if they wanted to, they never really did. And I think that a lot of that was because of South Carolina.
Yeah, especially on the defensive end, man. I'm telling you, Colin and Nick did a fantastic job one-on-one with Broom and Cardwell in the post. And then when Benjamin came in for the 10 or so minutes he got, defensively, those were 10 really good minutes, and he rebounded really well. I mean, they kept Auburn's best players from taking over the game.
Come back on the other side of the break, get into some thoughts around Carolina football, the CFP as well. The final is set 1 week from tonight. You are listening to the Monday Postgame Show.
Ah, yes, playoff football. Getting into one of the best parts of the sports calendar. It's here. The professionals just had their first round of playoffs this weekend with a game tonight. College football playoff going down to its final game next Monday. And, of course, you can cash in and monetarily benefit from your knowledge of all of these playoff matchups. My friends over at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, my favorite daily fantasy sports app. Tonight, I am all in on Justin Jefferson, going for more than a half a touchdown, meaning he's going to score. I think the guy's going to score tonight. Kyron Williams going more than 85.5 rushing yards. It's easy. Just do what I did right there. Pick more or less on at least 2 players, and you'll get a shot to potentially win up to 100 times your cash on Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use promo code 1075GAME and get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Again, promo code 1075GAME. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Welcome back into the Postgame Show on this Monday. Jay and Elijah with you. Coming up top of the hour, our headlines of the day. We'll have more on the Gamecocks, drive around the SEC for you as well. That's all in the 5 p.m. hour. Plenty more to go here before we hit that. Don't want to wish our lives away. But I will tell you this. I'm not wishing it away. I'm just looking forward to it in a couple of weeks. The first annual Pro Swing Golf Classic. First annual. But it's going to mean there's going to be a whole bunch of them in the future.
But this one's history.
That's right. A 2-day event, the 30th and 31st of this month. Cost you $150 to register a 2-man team. Bookings available 8 till 8. It says on here 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. I think that means PM.
Oh man, that is a full-on marathon, all dayer, baby, and all night.
Let me make it.
Oh, I like that. No, I 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. If you can hang, you can hang.
Yeah, I don't know that the integrated boys want to open 24 hours. I'm not sure that's what they're
Probably what they were shooting for.
There'll be some food included. Winners, $1,000. Second place, $750, $500 for third. And if you register, we're going to also be drawing for Gamecock baseball tickets during the course of the tournament. So you can win those. Speaking of that, big news around Gamecock baseball that we'll talk about in a little bit. Not about the team itself, per se.
But a nice look ahead of what the task is ahead of you.
Yeah, I did just get a text. Thank you. I'm glad he's listening. The great Michael Geddes. Yeah, I made a note, 8 p.m. Because, again, it says on here 8 a.m. to 8 a.m., and
So
I know
it's
that's
not going to be a sleepover.
No, it's not a sleepover.
I'll bring my jammies anyway.
That would be fun. Listen, I was in there Saturday afternoon for a little bit, talking with Nathan and Steve and a whole bunch of guys, and the place was packed. Y'all, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. I love the one in Chapin. It's like a long way from my house, but this one is not. It's not a long way.
A significantly shorter drive for you. Way more convenient. More convenient for me, too, I would say.
I could get to and from my house like 10 times before I could get to Chapin from my house to get to the other pro swing, to the new pro swing.
This is a gift. This location's a gift for you.
Yep. So there you go. That's coming up. And we'll be out there. That's coming up at the end of the month. We're going to be there for that. We're also going to be there this Friday for the official grand opening, even though they're already open.
That's exciting.
Even though they're already open. I'm telling you, people are having fun in there. You can just tell. And there's so much cool stuff. We'll get into it when we're out there, but it's a lot of cool stuff. The Gamecocks picked up another good get, as we like to say, in the business over the weekend when it comes to the football transfer portal. Devontae Miles, another, the way, if I read between the lines, Wes says it went so well that he just decided this is it. So there you go. So
Had a couple of those.
Yeah.
Russell Faison was the same way.
That's right. Just liked it and likes what's up. So
Food must have been fantastic.
Well, the food is very good here in Columbia, believe it or not. It's a really underappreciated food scene.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed within like a year of moving here.
We got food. Yeah, and it's not always just barbecue and burgers and chicken wings. Believe it or not. Not that there's anything wrong with those things. Love them all.
I do love all of those.
I love them all.
A lot.
Love them all. So there you go. So good stuff. Now, again, this could be it. Carolina classes started back today. So, for kids that are still in the portal and they want to enroll here, I mean, you got to go through the process. Listen, they can expedite that process, but and the score, if you only saw a score, I would tell you that it was mildly indicative of the overall game, but obviously a late defensive score for Ohio State really sealed the deal. Texas had their opportunities. They did, and I know some are really getting on Sark for a couple of play calls. That's fine. That's fair. I'm not going to sit here and push back on the people that are critical. I would just say, for the third straight game, Ohio State is just flexing its talent muscle. And you made a great point that I think enough of us don't talk about. I've heard some of the national guys talking about it, but you really reiterated it too. It is a veteran defense, whether that's because of NIL, whether that's because of guys wanting to enhance their draft status and coming back, whether they want to chase a title, all of the above. I don't really care, but there are several guys that start and that I heard was it I think it was Andy Staples say, listen, there's about 4 or 5 guys at least that would be starters in the NFL right now. That's how good they are.
Yeah, there's a ton of talent on that.
And they chose to come back and, chase a title, whatever it might be. Some second and third round type guys, he said,
Like Jack Sawyer probably.
Sawyer is, he said, he said there's a guy who would be starting in the NFL and a lot of guys playing. Ohio State's a better football team. And there's the reason Ohio State's been installed as, what, an 8.5, 9-point favorite over Notre Dame. They're just a better football team.
That's what happens when you get to spend $20.5 million on the roster.
Yeah.
This is really one of the first glimpses into, in the revenue sharing era where you get to spend that on a team. This is what $20.5 million looked like an NIL contribution for Ohio State because they spent that all on players. And I think that's a pretty good investment. I think spend that money on Caleb Downs to get him from Alabama. Pretty good investment to keeping guys like Jack Sawyer on the team. Mm-hmm. Pretty good investment to make it worth their while to stay and be all in on winning the school a national championship.
Quinshon Judkins, that helped a lot too. Judkins scored a touchdown in that game. I think he had two, actually. I think he had 2 touchdowns in that game. But that just beefed up the running back room. I mean, they filled every position as best as they could with really good talent that they paid for. And seeing them do that, we see this in the NFL all the time, right? Octane, highly touted free agents go to a certain place and they fail because they can't get everybody on the same page. Mm-hmm. You'll see different versions of this in college football in the future. Like, what was it, the Eagles team that Vince Young was on when they got Nnamdi Asomugha in free agency and they signed a bunch of big names and he called them the Dream Team and they didn't make the playoffs. Right.
That type of stuff can still happen in college football. But this team, to their credit, had some ups and downs. And they made sure that they didn't let the downs, losing to Michigan again, keep them from the main goal in mind because they felt mentally dead in the water after that, and we're having significantly different conversations about them now than we did in the first weekend of December.
And I think, as we've said, I firmly believe that Ohio State that day in Columbus against Michigan showed up, 21.5-point favorites, and said, cool. When do we leave for Indy in the Big Ten title game? And Michigan went, you don't.
You will get nothing.
And then, God bless them, but Tennessee and who's in between?
Oregon.
That's right. Yeah,
the number one team in the country.
Yeah, the rematch, yeah. And now you look at what they did the other night against Texas. Double-digit wins in all, convincing wins in all, at times suffocating defense in all. And, Notre Dame can't. We got a week to talk about it, but
how do they score?
Yeah, because you do have to score points to win the game. Fact.
Allegedly.
Fact. More on this for you. Get into a few more thoughts around the NFL as well. Again, big news of the day out of Dallas. It's the Postgame Show. Resolve to do better things with your money here in 2025, and you can start by talking to the great pros at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They know the Midlands like very few do. They've been in business since the 1930s, all right? And all of your banking needs can be done here. Checking, savings, credit cards, car loans, student loans, home loans, equity lines of credit, money for any reason. They can do it for you with lower rates and fewer fees. See, they're not for profit. They return earnings to their members with those lower rates and fewer fees. And just great people to work with, too. When we became members, my wife and I told her when we were done, I said, I don't know that I could have envisioned a smoother process to become a member and do some of the things that we did. I really had no idea it would be that simple and that good for us. That's how I feel about Palmetto Citizens. We think you will, too. Check them out online. Learn more for yourself. PalmettoCitizens.org.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways. We'll start with a pretty significant one. Looks like an overturned truck has caused 2 right lanes to be blocked on 77 southbound over at Bluff Road near exit 5. So down to 1 lane there. Avoid that if all possible. Some other accidents in the area causing traffic backups are on Fish Hatchery Road near Pine Ridge Drive, Highway 1 and Augusta Road near I-77, Highway 262, 2 of them actually on 262, one over at US 378 near Garner's Ferry Road, the other one is near Fairmont Drive.
Talking Carolina hoops, little Carolina football, CFP. And the news of the day out of Dallas is that Mike McCarthy will not return as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Officially not fired. His contract expired, and it will not be renewed.
They just didn't like him enough to re-invite him to next year's party.
Yeah. So it's not fired, right?
You're just not allowed back.
Just not coming back. So there's a difference.
Mutually agreed upon.
And it does feel kind of mutual because officially his contract ended last Wednesday. And then there was a 7-day negotiating period that was exclusive to the Cowboys. And that 7th day would have been tomorrow. But they went ahead today and realized, yeah, we're not coming back. So was there a hope that they could get something done? Did they each, have genuine interest in the other and just couldn't come to, I don't know. The whole staff basically worked on a deal this year that expired. And even if those guys all make a lot of money, and they do, you still want some level of security, but they were willing to go into it on expiring deals. So there's that part of the equation. We've talked a little bit here today about who might fit the bill, what it is that Jerry's going to want to do. I've thrown out Pete Carroll as somebody who I think checks a number of boxes.
I think you've talked me into that one a little bit. I'm more leaning to maybe Pete Carroll would be a good idea.
But
the window element of that is the more compelling spot because this team has the talent in certain positions.
Look, I think in college, listen, in any job, you'd like to hire someone that's going to be good at it.
You don't hire someone to be bad at it.
And that is going to hang around for a while. That's what you'd like, unless here's what you don't want. You don't want to do that if you're like building a house.
I like the same person who started it.
I want you to be done in a reasonable amount of time, and then I want you to go on to the next one. So there are exceptions to the rule, a doctor with surgery. Anyway, you see the point. But as I said, for what Elijah's alluding to, I mentioned that the window here, the window of the new head coach and the current quarterback, who's handsomely paid, could end up kind of sinking and allowing everybody to just go, all right, let's see this thing through. And because at some point, every NFL team has to go through a rebuild. At some point, you begin to pay so much money that you have no choice but to gut the payroll because of the cap. This is not Major League Baseball or the NBA. So you do have to factor those kinds of things in. And, Dak makes a lot of money. Micah Parsons makes a lot of money. And they're going to continue to make a lot of money, whether you pay them or somebody else does. So if you want to pay them, anyway, you get it. Pete Carroll's a very young at heart, 73 years old. 3 or 4 years of Dak, 3 or 4 years of Pete. Maybe that turns into something now. And I think Washington's win is a really strong signal. And by the way, Jaden, if he wasn't already, he's elevated his status again with a playoff win on the road. Philadelphia is the best team in the division as we speak, and they looked the part yesterday.
Mm-hmm. That was a dominant defensive.
It was. I thought the Packers had an opportunity, and it just never materialized at all. Giants, whatever. But so Dallas has a difficult hill to climb. I won't say mountain, I'll say hill, but it's kind of slippery and muddy. But you can get there.
The division's really good, but you can. I mean,
get there.
Look, Dak Prescott, when healthy, was still really productive. Just the issue now, he's taking up almost 33% of your cap, according to SpotTrack.com. And then
that's frightening.
CeeDee Lamb takes up about the next 13%. Then Micah Parsons, Terrence Steele, and Trevon Diggs make up the next. Doing some quick math here, which is very dangerous. Almost 20%. So, I mean, you round that up, 20, 52.
God, does Lamb make that much?
Yeah, like those guys alone make up about 65% of the salary cap.
You're overpaying for Lamb.
Yeah, I mean, it's the cap hits about $35.5 million.
I mean, he is good.
58 in dead cap.
See, I don't. That just makes my head hurt.
It does, yeah. The funny money and the black magic that goes into making a team fit under an NFL salary cap is a dark art that will never fully understand. But the best GMs in the world are the ones who are good at bending that to their will. But it's a real thing because now the New Orleans Saints have to give away all their good players,
right?
Because they're like $100 million over the salary cap.
We'll have some more on the McCarthy situation coming up in the top of the hour news. Beyond that, tonight we've got the Vikings and the Rams. Again, this game was supposed to be in L.A. For very obvious reasons. It needed to be moved over to Phoenix. Kudos to the Bidwells and the Cardinals for doing what they did in a relatively short amount of time. Don't know what the attendance will be like tonight. Spread changed a little bit in favor of Minnesota. They were already favored, now just a little bit more. You just hope that the Rams guys can do their best to try and, for a couple of days, not think about what's happening. I fear that's a near impossible task for all of us. And it's just, my goodness.
It's devastating.
My goodness.
We're going to be really hard to play in that situation.
But you have to play. That's just, and I know some people have even said, can they not? And they just can't. I mean, you just can't cancel this game. You can't. I mean, what are you going to do?
You can't postpone it.
Yeah, you
you're
can't.
Holding up the rest. Of the league.
It's just not. You just can't. So I don't know. Look, Vikings might have won anyway. I don't know. Texans all over the Chargers. Didn't see that one coming. Justin Herbert was bad. 4 picks. Just bad. Just
one of his worst games.
Yeah. Houston just had his number. And, again, Houston were division winners and home team, but they were the underdog. Ravens, no real issues. I mean, it was 21-0 at halftime. Steelers did come back a little bit there and make it interesting.
Mildly.
Yeah, interesting. But no.
The Ravens popped him in the mouth early enough.
Yeah.
It just really didn't matter.
Again, Bills all over my Broncos. Denver took the opening kick and went right down the field.
Nice bomb to start the game.
And then
Bo Nix looked good on that pass.
What was it, like a fifth? How long was it? 40? What was it? Now I can't remember. I'll find it. But I was like, hey, okay, there you go. That's a thing.
You're like, all right, we're here. And then you were not
43
anymore.
43-yard pass. I was
Beautiful touch on the ball, too. It was a really good throw.
It's a good play. It's a good play. And the defense was okay. I mean, it was 10-7 at halftime. The defense was all right. And then it was not.
You want to know what the ESPN Football Power Index has for the Ravens-Bills game? I'm looking up on TV right now. If you have ESPN on in that studio, you might see it. The graphic's gone now. So.
Oh, I see it now, 50%.
Yeah, a flat 50%.
Wow. What's the spread on that one?
There can't be one. That has to be a pick 'em.
You think it has to be a pick 'em?
I feel like at that point, that game has to be a pick 'em.
Let's find out. And then, as we said, Green Bay just didn't have it. And
they never felt in that game. Even when they cut it to 16-10, I didn't ever really feel.
And have you heard the Commanders' radio call of the
The bank shot?
Yeah,
Of Zane
the
Gonzalez's
doink.
bank shot last night?
And that poor dude is getting like people are like, they saw him all getting all nervous and like doing his hair and whatever.
He has an OCD too.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'd be nervous too.
I think he like actually has OCD. Like that's a thing that he's been, and he does it for every kick, so it wasn't just a pressure one.
Well, let's say whatever it takes.
I will say.
Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
For the record.
Baltimore, 1 point favorite. 1 point favorite. In Buffalo. Now, that's a betting favorite.
And that is on ESPN.
ESPN bet. Yeah, ESPN bet. Money line, Baltimore minus 115 to Buffalo's minus 105.
Minus money on both.
Both teams. Both teams have minus
plus 100 on BetMGM for the Buffalo Bills. So if you're in, you like odds, then drive to North Carolina.
803-404-6100. Some phone calls and more on what's going on around the NFL when the postgame show returns. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of our second hour. Coming up top of the hour. Headlines of the day. Some Gamecock things to get into across a few different sports. More on what's going on with Mike McCarthy. We'll get into those things for you, too. And, again, at least one NFL vacancy has been filled. All that and more coming up in the final hour of the program. In the meantime, let's get back on the phones. Ernest is up next. Hey, bud.
Hey, Jay, you're talking about Michael McCarthy. Well, a few days ago, before Dallas let him go, the Bears were interested in him, and Dallas basically said no, gave him the one finger salute.
Yes.
I guess it's true in that. I guess you could say it's true in Dallas fashion. They gave him the big D.
Yes, there you go. Thank you, Ernest. There you go. Yeah, I was surprised by that a little bit, that Dallas
Denied.
that Jera didn't let him.
That must be what the big D stands for that Ernest is alluding to. Denial. Yeah, they denied his opportunity to be the coach of the Bears for that moment in time.
Well,
it's not like he can't just go interview now. He's delayed it a week.
Right. Again,
that's another big D delay. They denied and delayed his
How many
chances.
more D's can we can keep going?
I know my alphabet.
There was the exclusive window of negotiation, and I believe Jerry just, in all seriousness, said, well, I'm going to take advantage of that because it's in his contract. And I can, so I will. And that's
fine.
That's not problematic.
That's why you put that in your contract.
Yeah, that's
put that in the coach's contract.
Right. That's not problematic. I mean, and if the Bears are really interested, then they understand what's in the contract. Mike has an agent. He can talk to whomever. And again, if the Bears really want him, he's available now. And let's face it, the agent has underlings that can be, you can get some assistant to be, on the DL talking to the Bears a little bit, right? Like, well, what would your
back channels exist?
Yeah. What would your deal look like as we negotiate with the Cowboys? And officially now, I don't know if that's like exclusive. Is that breaking the contract? I don't know.
It's like tampering in college football, man. Like, is it tampering if I message this 5-star wide receiver who's at Alabama, his uncle who I know and played high school football with, and
no, that's what you do.
Text him and be like, hey, man, my Iowa
get the next door
Hawkeyes
neighbor.
need a wide
You get the
receiver.
uncle's next door neighbor.
Yeah,
that's what you get.
Yeah, there are ways to not be able to trace this.
Yeah.
Like,
hey, are you Mr. Smith's neighbor? I am. You don't know me, but
you will. We're going to be well acquainted.
Yeah. So I didn't. Once I realized that there was that exclusivity window, I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. And again, if the Bears want him, the Bears are good. I don't know who the Bears want. Again, there's talk now that the Bears may want to speak with Marcus Freeman once Notre Dame is done. Okay.
That would be pretty wild.
I don't look. I'm not sitting here saying, hey, the Bears are going to hire Marcus Freeman. No, I don't believe that to be the case. I think Marcus is very happy at Notre Dame. But when you think about it, in a lot of ways, it would make sense. He's right there. The family you wouldn't have to move that far. What's it, like an hour, right?
Yeah, that's not
right there. Basically,
a ton of Notre Dame fans that live in Chicago.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chicago in a lot of ways is sort of like a Notre Dame hometown.
Yeah, it's the Metro Notre Dame.
It's
fan
right
hub.
there. Yeah, it's like there's like South Bend, and then you get to Gary, and then you're into Illinois. And
and really, like they're probably way more, like way more Notre Dame fans, alum who live in Chicago.
Sure.
Than Northwestern, which is like the school in Chicago. Maybe Northwestern and.
Yeah, Northwestern, University of Chicago, UIC.
DePaul.
Yeah, DePaul. Sure.
Not just any Paul.
No,
DePaul.
I don't think it's going to be Marcus Freeman either, but I would do an exhaustive search because, again, for the Bears, you are embarking on a brand new period of existence. You're building a new ballpark that's opening in like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd like this person that you hire now to be the person that builds the team and gets ready to move into your beautiful new palace.
With a quarterback who's on a rookie deal. I mean, a quarterback who at the time, right now, is only making up 3.26% of your salary cap in a salary cap sport, which we just laid out the problems that the Cowboys have now, having to build a team around Dak Prescott when he makes up 30+% of your salary cap. You are in a window right now for the next 3 years with a rookie quarterback where you can maximize the talent around him and get him in the best position to continuously win games. And I thought they did a good job of that before the season. Things just fell apart. But you need somebody who's a good enough football coach, a good enough CEO of a franchise or a program to come in and make sure the little things don't get looked over.
Man, you know what? I don't know which job. I just, the more I think about it, the more I think Steve Sarkisian might be ready for an NFL gig and might be that new modern offensive guy that can blend the two.
He would fit the X's and O's part, I think, pretty well.
Yeah. I've been impressed. I've been impressed. Headlines of the day, more on the Gamecock basketball teams, drive around the SEC, all in our final hour. All right, I love telling you about our good friends at AAA Heating and Air. It has been cold, right? I mean, that's where we are. Yes, believe it or not. In Columbia, South Carolina, it gets cold for a bit. And this time of year, it can really take a toll on your system. If it's time for a quick service, if it's time for something new, anything in between, AAA Heating and Air is ready to get it done. One of the things that I think is fantastic about what they do is their pricing transparency. They're going to tell you up front what it's going to cost you. You're not going to get it fixed and go, oh, by the way, here's what it is. No, they're going to inspect it, tell you what's up, and then they're going to get it done for you if that's what it is that you want to do. Time for something new, $1,500 system buyback, instant rebate, the 15-year parts and labor transferable warranty, 0 interest for qualified buyers, guaranteed financing. Roy and Dana Finley do a fantastic job. Their staff is amazing. They've done work at my house. We stay comfortable. You should too with AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways, starting with 2 pretty big ones. One's an accident that's got the 2 right lanes blocked. An overturned tractor trailer has caused those lanes to be blocked on 77 southbound over at Bluff Road near exit 5. So only 1 lane operational there. So avoid that if possible, as well as one that recently has been reported on US 378 near Mineral Springs Road. That looks like a pretty significant traffic backup. Some others around the area, Fish Hatchery Road near Pine Ridge Drive, 2 on Highway 1 at Augusta Road, 1 at I-26, the other on Highway 16 near Beltline Boulevard, Highway 262 near Fairmont Drive, Platte Springs Road at South Lake Drive, and Sparkleberry Lane at Two Notch Road.
It is 5 o'clock news time and the final hour of the postgame show. Welcome aboard alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. We got a lot to get to here in the news segment, so let's jump right in. South Carolina men's basketball is where we start. Gamecocks, an impressive display despite the loss on Saturday. 66-63 the final to now number 1. Auburn. The Tigers did ascend to the top spot in the AP poll after Tennessee lost last week. Auburn is now 3-0 in conference play. Both teams injury-riddled for South Carolina. You had 2 guys before the game that were out in Thomas and Studi. Janai Broome of Auburn was hurt during the game. He will not require surgery, but is expected to be out at least a couple of weeks, probably more like a month. As for the Gamecocks, Thomas, we don't know yet. A few weeks,
yeah.
And with Miles Studi, it is undetermined at this point, as he's got blood clots, and as some treatments begin to take hold, they may have a better idea for now on that one. Again, you lost the basketball game, and you had your chances, and it does have you staring down an 0-3 start in conference play. That's the bad news. The second bit of bad news, again, the roster is where it is. But where were the positives from Saturday with 15 SEC games left? Here's what Coach had to say.
Thought our guys, this is not just my assessment. I think about watch the game, could tell that our guys played really hard and with a good level of physicality, of aggression, of energy, of spirit and emotion. And so I think some of the basketball things that happened for us that were positive, whether on the offensive side or the defensive side, I think we're a byproduct of those factors. So really happy with what the game looked like, what the body of work ultimately looked like. Just wish that you could make a play here or there on either side of it that ultimately affects the outcome of the game. But they have a good team. The number next to their name would say that, but my eyeballs tell me the same. And so, loaded with a lot of talented players. Hopefully Janai Broome it's nothing too serious. I think it looked like his ankle, but hopefully it's something where he'll be back sooner rather than later. But I thought our guys fought hard and played well and managed the game effectively for a large part of the game.
South Carolina will be at Vanderbilt on Wednesday night. Auburn hosts Mississippi State on Wednesday. And again, we did, as did Coach Paris in those comments, allude to Janai Broome. This morning, Auburn basketball did put out that his injury will not require surgery, but he will be out for, again, a minimum of a few weeks. It's going to probably be, I think, Elijah, I think you're right, just kind of looking at it, probably – like that second week of February. We're in the second week of January now, and it feels like Bruce Pearl probably pulls what I like to call a Bobby Cox and say, how you feeling there, sport? I'm good, Coach. I'm ready to go. All right, good. We'll give you about another week, and then you'll be out there. As soon as he tells him he's good to go.
As much precaution as humanly possible.
That's one of the things Bobby used to always do. You feeling good? Ready to go? Yes, Skip. All right, we'll see you next week. because he's
Give
not
him
taking
one extra week.
not taking any chances on something like that.
Wise.
We'll have more from Lamont coming up in just a little bit. Dawn Staley's team in its second game without Ashlyn Watkins continues to look very impressive. Number 5 Texas in Columbia yesterday. Carolina wins it 67-50, and South Carolina was dominant in the paint. Here's what Dawn thought of that.
We won. I think we won that battle. I mean, we won the battle from a scoring standpoint. We didn't win the rebounding battle, but everything below that, like the extra effort, we really concentrated on making sure they got no direct passes in their post and not playing behind them. And the times that we did play behind, something bad happened. So we'll clean that part of it up. But I'm just really proud of them because they are playing together. They're playing for Ashlyn. They're playing to make sure that, people don't look at us as, not contenders.
The halftime margin was 17 points. The final margin was 17 points. You were courtside yesterday. South Carolina is really good at asserting themselves in virtually every game they play. One exception so far this year, obviously. But the second half, was it more, in your opinion, about what South Carolina wasn't going to do? Was there a card or a chip that Dawn and the staff kept for the next big game? Or did Texas find a way to adjust and make it a little more competitive?
I mean, Texas made some more shots around the basket. They didn't make a ton on the day. I mean, if you go back and look at Texas's numbers from shooting near the rim, they're at 12 of 36. They made a little more than they did in that first quarter. First quarter especially. I mean, this was kind of an interesting omen for the game, right? Texas shot 26 attempts from the field. They had 26 in that first quarter. South Carolina had 8. And South Carolina was leading by 9. So you had that many more cracks at that many more bites at the apple, and you still couldn't get within 9 points of South Carolina. Was pretty indicative of how that game was going to go. They had a lot of advantages in that first quarter specifically, where they grabbed a ton of offensive rebounds. I'm pulling it up right now. I think Texas in that first quarter had 13 offensive rebounds.
20 for the game.
20 for the game, and could not change that in the second chance points. They're better at finishing near the rim in the second half. They're making some more jump shots. I think that kept them afloat, but they can never get within reasonable striking distance because of how well South Carolina played defensively. And when your best player for Texas, Madison Booker, who is a consensus All-American, goes 3 of 19 from the field, Texas ain't beating anybody with their best player shooting like that.
Give me cut 24, will you, on that very thing right there, because we've talked a lot about South Carolina from the men's perspective, knowing that teams will focus on Colin. Here's Dawn on what her team did against Madison Booker.
I mean, we knew Breezy was the primary defender. We knew she was going to have to come out of the game at some point. And I thought everybody else that guarded her, Tessa came in, did a pretty good job. On her, but I think she just had a really off night. I think part of that was us. The other part was just she was missing chippy. She's missing mid-range shots. I mean, she's a 50% shooter. So part of that was, the luck of the CLA's lid being put on the rim for her. But we're fortunate. We're fortunate. We took care of home because we got to go there and play, and it's probably going to be enough tough game.
Gamecocks, number 2 in the country still. Interestingly, again, this is not a judgment. It's simply an observation. UCLA got all but 2 of the first-place votes that are out there. South Carolina got none in second place. Notre Dame got the other 2 in third. I'm not judging. It's January the 13th. Dare I say, without sounding callous, I don't really care what the rankings are right now because they have this big tournament that they like to play in March and early April. But
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, a little bit. But it's just interesting to me. That's all.
I would like to hear the explanation as to why UCLA deserved not to get those first.
Well, I was going to say, if anything,
winning games.
Right.
That's you punishing them for winning. That's always been a head scratcher for me when AP poll voters do that, respectively.
But anyway, take that Take that as you will. Carolina back in action on Thursday, and I forgot to write down who they have.
Alabama.
Alabama, thank you.
Alabama, who's also ranked.
Yeah.
On the road.
That game is there, yes, at Coleman. Thank goodness they let the women play at Coleman, because for only a couple of years ago they didn't. And I remember watching games on television on SEC Network when Carolina was at Alabama and whatever facility they were in. You get vertigo, man, because like the cameras were basically pointing straight down onto the floor.
Hate that.
It was awful.
Terrible.
It was awful. I'm like, just either move the camera or, move them to a good building
where you can shoot
with cameras.
the games.
Yeah. Oh, it was terrible, man.
That's dumb. Also, there's no excuse not to play your men's and women's basketball.
No,
teams
I agree. I
There's
agree.
Zero excuse.
And maybe, some schools will tell you, well, we just want a crowded environment. And, okay, whatever. But, but again, I remember on television, I was like, I need a Dramamine, man.
I can't handle this.
It's just hard to watch.
You ever watch games? I know it's might have been a while for you because Temple's not been very good. But if you ever watch a game at Temple, the camera is on the left side of the arena. So when the ball's on one side of the floor, the action's a lot closer to you, and you kind of like it.
Right.
And then you're at a weird caddy-cornered angle when the ball's on the right side of the arena on your television, and it looks completely different. It is a very interesting viewing experience, and I don't really like it.
Now, I have to check that out again. That's like the old Coach K basketball. We called it the Coach K angle because it was in the corner.
Angle, yeah, it's in the corner. Yeah,
Great.
That's where Temple's is.
Right.
Like, so if you're watching a Temple basketball game,
I feel like I'm playing Coach K.
you feel like you're playing Coach K. Yeah.
great.
So if you're just scrolling, you see Temple on TV. Watch it and give me your thought on the bad camera angle. I don't love it.
I will always smile and thinking about playing Coach K basketball, man. Man, that game was fun. And it got intense at my house back in the day. Intense. As we continue our integrated media headlines of the day, I can now, at least as of Valentine's Day, I and many others can even more officially call Founders Park the Ray.
Officially.
Because I've been calling it the Ray since before it was built. All right. I may or may not have been the first one to come out with that. I don't know. But that weekend, the University of South Carolina will make it official. Ray Tanner Field at Founders Park. The dedication will actually be Saturday the 15th. It'll take place on the field prior to first pitch. The game is at 2:00. The first 2,500 fans will get a commemorative Ray Tanner trading card. I have not seen as of yet, but I am hopeful that Ray gets to throw out the first pitch.
He should.
Right?
It's only fitting.
You know what would be cool? Put a bat in Ray's hand and let him take the first swing of the day.
I like that. Well, then
We'll
who throws the first pitch?
We'll change up honorifics and stuff. Right?
A legitimate first pitch and a legitimate first swing.
I think an honorific is actually a name, not a thing, but nevertheless, no, congratulations, Coach. We knew this was coming, but now it's, again, officially official. Like I said, I've been calling it the Ray a long time, as have many people, but excited for Coach. It's a big deal.
It's a massive deal.
Ray Tanner Field at Founders Park, Saturday, February the 15th. A couple other quick things here for you. We've talked a lot about the NFL stuff. Again, Mike Vrabel has been hired as the new head coach of the New England Patriots, to the surprise of, wait for it, no one. Mike McCarthy today told he will not be back. Again, he did not get fired by Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. His contract expired last week. It simply is not going to be renewed. So the Cowboys will be looking for a new coach. Here in state, multiple reports suggest that Clemson is likely to hire Penn State defensive coordinator Tom Allen. Coach Allen was a longtime head coach at Indiana. He's jumped around college football a bunch. Had a very good defense this past season. It is understood that there are a lot of family reasons for this. Apparently his children live here in the Carolinas, and his young son, also Tom, would be joining the Clemson staff in some type of analyst role. This surprised me a little bit when I saw it this morning, not because the Clemson job isn't a good job. Of course it is. And there could be a lot of reasons, but I thought, man, you just made the Final Four. Your defense is good. Yes, you're going to lose Abdul Carter, But I don't think that's why you're going to. But I wondered if James Franklin was like, if you want to go get a job somewhere, go get a job somewhere. I'll upgrade. I don't know. But the more I've looked into it, it does feel like maybe he and Mrs. Allen would simply like to get closer to the kids and grandkids, and this is a way to do it.
Kind of sounds like it. And I think at this point, James Franklin cycled through some defensive coordinators now because he did have Manny Diaz a few years ago.
What if it's a James Franklin thing?
It could be. Maybe. I mean, I won't rule it out because I don't know him that well, but there's a possibility because the Penn State defensive coordinator gig is a pretty good gig.
Yeah. And again, they're not a defense away from doing good things. They need a couple of receivers.
Yeah, that defense was loaded.
Yeah.
That's a really good defense, man. And Tom Allen did a fantastic job with him this year.
I thought so. And again, especially when you can say, hey, Abdul Carter, go.
Go tackle the dude with football.
You got it, Coach.
All right, say less.
That's our integrated media. Headlines of the day, 803-948-8327 for all your home theater needs and so much more. And with our great friends at Pro Swing, go see our good friends at Integrated Media. More of the postgame show coming up. Welcome back into the Postgame Show on this Monday afternoon, 20 minutes after 5 o'clock. Jay and Elijah with you. Drive around the SEC still to come. We'll get you updated on all the weekend activities in basketball. A little bit more of what's going on with SEC dominance. Is it over? Touch on a few of those things. I know some of the national talking heads this weekend continued to discuss that. I don't think this is about the rise of Ohio State, though.
I think they've already been here.
Yeah, that's what I'm really. It's just like
they win 10 games at the bare minimum every year.
What are we really doing here?
They won a national championship like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's Ohio State.
Within the last decade.
It's Ohio State. In the meantime, I don't know how he's going to be today, but we're going to find out. But our good friend John joins us now on the guest line. Have we already said Happy New Year to you? We have. And by now, if I do, Elijah might throw something at me, so I'll just say hey.
Yeah, you've said it to me multiple times now, Jay, but I'm not complaining.
Well, now I'm taking one of them back then. You know what? Unhappy New Year if you're going to be that way.
All right, I'm coming into the studio. That's it.
All right. Now, what you got?
Yeah. No, well, okay. I know that you're not going to like me for saying this, but, I mean, I'm kind of with Elijah. The Broncos kind of got what they deserved last week or yesterday because of what they – not only because of what they wore, but because of what they wore coming off the heels of what they wore last week against Kansas City.
Amen, brother.
Jay.
Oh, I do like it. I'm with you. I'm 100% there. I'm there, yes.
Yeah. I don't know why NFL franchises ever felt the need to go away from what we now know as their throwbacks, because – it seems to me that every one of their throwbacks, minus the Broncos when they wore those banana peel uniforms a couple of years ago, every throwback is fantastic. The Orange Crush Broncos, the 70s Dolphins, the Patriots with with Pat the Patriot in a three-point stance, the Falcons, you name it. If an NFL franchise is going with a throwback look, or even a college football team, i.e. Carolina with the Jim Carlin era, it begs the question, why'd you ever go away from them? So, I don't know. I think I'm all for NFL franchises and a lot of college programs just making their throwbacks permanent. Again, what we did this year with the throwbacks on the Carlin era, I think that needs to be our permanent look going forward. But getting back to, I guess, more of a relevant topic with the news of the day coming out of Dallas. Not surprised, really, that Jera is deciding to move on from Mike McCarthy. Kind of saw that coming last year when he didn't renew his contract, and it was just basically, okay, he's just going to let the contract run out. Dallas this year, I guess the best way I could describe it from watching it was the Cowboys were an absolute mess on the field. Obviously you had some injuries to deal with, but that being said, it was such a far cry from what you saw last year with Dan Quinn's defense versus Mike Zimmer's defense this year. So, looking at the list of options, I mean, none of them really scream out Super Bowl will happen. Pete Carroll or Mike Tomlin wouldn't be bad. I'd be a little hesitant on Sark. Kellen Moore, I don't think would be a horrible hire, but again, nothing just screams out definite Super Bowl winner right there. But what does scream out Super Bowl winner when you're making the hire exactly?
Yeah, that's a fair question, and I mean, I don't know that there's a real answer to that. There just isn't in today's world. You said Tomlin. Just to let everybody know, Tomlin is not currently available, obviously. But there's whispers that the Rooneys and Mike Tomlin may discuss some things. The Steelers have lost their last 5 playoff games without advancing at all in the playoffs in that time, and that's probably just not good enough. But I love Mike Tomlin. Yeah, Sark, I'm with you. He hasn't done it as an NFL head coach, but man, I think he's really, one of the things I like about Sark, John, and I told Elijah this, because there was all this, Texas is back. I'm like, well, let's go do it again. But I as you watch Texas this year, Steve Sarkisian was tasked when he was hired with saying, hey, this is not about you having us do well in the Big 12. It's nice if you do. But you're here because you work with Nick, and we're going to be in the SEC. We need you.
He made them an SEC program in the first 3 years of his tenure there. There's no question about that. He took over a mess from what Tom Herman left. And don't forget, in Texas's first year, or in Sark's first year in Austin, they lost, I believe, at home to Kansas, and that was before we all knew who Lance Leipold was. I mean, for what he has done in Austin, it's been nothing short of impressive. It's just, would it translate to the NFL level?
Well, and that there again, you don't know those things until you go do it. And I think I don't know if Jerry wants to roll those dice again. That's the thing. So, and again, do you roll dice on Kellen Moore, who Jerry allowed to be fired? I mean, even if it was McCarthy that wanted to fire him.
Allowed to be scapegoated, essentially, for a lot of the offense.
So I don't know if Kellen's coming right back. Now, he may, because there's a lot more money, and you get to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. Again, Pete Carroll, to me, makes a lot of sense. And I'm not advocating. That's not my job. Pete Carroll makes a lot of sense because I don't know that this is something long-term. Right now, I think the Cowboys have to look at a shorter amount of time because of Dak's contract and Dak's abilities. And that would Pete come in and do enough to revitalize the culture? People apparently really loved playing for him. But like anything in the NFL, there's a life cycle, there's a lifespan, and it's hard. I mean, what Belichick did with Brady, it was the two of them, like almost literally, and it was almost two iterations of what they did. It feels like it was one long big thing. But it really wasn't.
The Super Bowl winning dominance took like a 7 or 8 year hiatus.
Yeah. And then they picked it back up. I mean, there were two constants, but everything else was different. As for the uniforms, John, I did look this up. Apparently, the Denver Broncos would not be able to wear the quote-unquote throwbacks as their official jersey again till at least like 2029. And it has something to do with every so often, you basically tell the league what your uniform is. And so they did that this season. So it's like a 5-year thing. I didn't get into all of it. They could have. Apparently, you can wear a throwback once in the playoffs. I was under the impression that you were not allowed to wear what were deemed throwbacks in the playoffs. But apparently, you actually can. They just chose not to yesterday.
Lame.
But no, there's no question. The Denver Broncos lost yesterday primarily because the uniform was hideous coming off the heels of a uniform against Kansas City last weekend that was glorious.
I am a firm believer that the good Lord does punish bad uniform decisions on a football field and basketball court, baseball field, and he will reward the right decisions.
Well, as the great Fernando used to say, Billy Crystal's character, it's better to look good than to feel good. But he did it with a Spanish accent. I won't do that to you.
No, thank you.
And again, we do have a game tonight, Minnesota and L.A. from Phoenix/Glendale because of what's going on in L.A. And yes, John, I am all for the Jim Carlin, George Rogers era uniforms to become the permanent look of Carolina football.
I'd sign that petition.
I am here for it now. Should we get a petition going?
I think we should.
They got websites for that kind of thing these days?
I got some legal memo pads.
All right. Whatever it takes.
That should work. There are a lot of lines on there. We can fill it up with names.
Poll question tomorrow. You want to get on that?
We could.
And let it run for like a month?
And see if we can create some real change.
Sure.
The change that we want to see in the world.
I just want to be able to taint the jury pool as best as possible over the course of time. I can't really do it in a day, but give me a month, and I'll get you some results.
The Jay Phillips burner accounts will be active for an entire month.
That's right.
Just to vote on a Twitter poll.
And, John, for what it's worth, I've not yet spoken to Mrs. Phillips about the McCarthy departure, so I don't know how she feels about this. She'd probably be like, good. Who's the next guy that's not going to get us to the Super Bowl? That's how she'll feel.
How's it going to go down in your household if they steal Sean Payton?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. Drive around the SEC is next. And since our great friend Chris Logan just told you about ProSwing, I'll just tell you about Integrated Media because they do ProSwing. In fact, I was kind of joking with him. I was like, man, who did all your AV work in here? It was great when I was in there on Saturday. No, it looks fantastic. But seriously, if you are ready to take your home theater system to the next level, whether you don't have one at all or whether you have one and you're ready to modernize, maybe you're building this year, let your contractor work with Integrated Media, get it done right the first time. It does make a difference. But I'm telling you, yesterday when I was watching multiple things, I was like, just thank goodness for Integrated Media. I love what they've done in my house, all right? The ease of the Control4 app. If I want to put everything on in every room, or if I want to have every room doing something different, it's all done with the touch of a couple of buttons on my phone. I love my outdoor system. And everything's better. And it's just, Wi-Fi. It's amazing. I love what Integrated Media has done. I can't say that enough. Check them out, 803-948-8327.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to it are causing some issues on the roadways. We still have a pretty significant accident. An overturned tractor-trailer on I-77 southbound at Bluff Road near Exit 5 has the two right lanes blocked. So they're down to one lane, so I'd be able to avoid that if possible. Have other accidents on Assembly Street near Calhoun Street, two on Highway 1 at Augusta Road, one at I-26, the other at Highway 16 near Beltline Boulevard, one on 20 westbound at Spears Creek Church Road near Exit 82, one on Lincoln Street near Laurel Street, Platte Springs Road at South Lake Drive, South Holly Street at Rosewood Drive, US 378 near Mineral Springs Road, US 378 at I-26, and lastly, one on Wayne Street near Hampton Street.
It is Drive Around the SEC time on this Monday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. We'll start with the scores and come back around to a little bit more from Elijah on Carolina-Auburn. And, again, Auburn did ascend to the number 1 spot in the AP poll. They also got good news this morning that Janai Broome will not require surgery for his ankle injury suffered in the second half here in Columbia. Again, a little twist up with one of his teammates, went down and was on the floor. That was probably down there about 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, it got uncomfortably quiet in that arena for a while. There was some real concern.
But good news, again, he'll be back this season, a few weeks away for sure, and he'll make a determination probably towards the end of the month. Tennessee got back to winning ways over in Austin with a 74-70 win at UT. At Texas, I got to be careful with that.
Hey, there's some, and the
Longhorns,
great state of Tennessee that will contest that there is no University of Texas if it wasn't for the University of Tennessee. History lesson.
Texas goes to 0-3 in conference play as well. Bama remains undefeated. They win at A&M 94-88. I didn't get to watch any of that one, but from what I understand, pretty good second half performance from the Aggies, but not enough.
Oh, that was an exciting game. I remember I was telling you these are the two of the 15 best offensive rebounding teams in the country.
Yeah.
And then I said, if you like offensive rebounds, this game is for you. Alabama grabbed 24 offensive rebounds. Texas A&M grabbed 23.
Wow.
The game featured a combined 47 offensive rebounds.
Kentucky goes to state and wins 95-90. I think Kentucky just maybe had a bad day in Athens. I don't know yet.
Yeah, they got in some foul trouble. Georgia got a lot of cheapies at the free throw line, and they just didn't shoot as well. Like, Kentucky's a team that runs really good offense, really fluid offense, and sometimes they'll run really good offense, get open shots, and the shots not fall. I think that was definitely the case against Georgia. I mean, 69 points is one of their lowest totals of the year. They're under a point per possession, and they were 24% from three. It was not. I think that one you could chalk up to it not being their night. And defensively, they struggle. It is an average defensive unit, I would say. But what they do on offense, man, is pretty fluid. And against the Mississippi State team that blows up your off-ball actions about as well as anybody in college basketball and is just freakishly athletic, they still churned out 1.28 points per possession on that night.
To be fair, though, Georgia's having a pretty good season, and they go to 2-1 in conference play. They went to Norman and won 72-62. So
they're solid.
Yeah, I mean that's.
I haven't gone back to watch that one yet. I've kept up with it. I haven't got to go back and see it. So I'm curious to see exactly how that went down. But Georgia's a very reliable basketball team this year.
I like Coach White.
Coach White's a good coach.
I like him.
Really, I don't know, not pessimistic, skeptical about Georgia coming into the year.
Yeah,
got a lot of good transfer portal pickups.
Well, I think it's talent. It's Georgia's primary problem since Dominique Wilkins left
was getting talent.
Has been
to
talent.
Actually play there.
Yeah, because there's talent in Atlanta. There's talent in Georgia. They just don't go play at UGA.
Yeah.
Florida goes to Fayetteville, wins 71-63. Coach Cal's Hogs are 0-3 in conference play. Mississippi goes to 3-0. They send LSU to 0-3 with a dominant performance at the TAD. Actually, it's not the TAD anymore. What do they call? Yeah, it's not the TAD Pad anymore. What do they call that place now?
Oh,
the Pavilion.
I think so.
Yeah, sorry. The TAD Pad is still my old one. That's because there's still the hump, but no TAD Pad.
Yeah, it's the Pavilion.
The Pavilion, yeah. 77-65. And Mizzou beats Vanderbilt 75-66. Again, Carolina will be at Vanderbilt this weekend, this Wednesday. And on that one, Elijah, let's get back. I know you. The question that you asked, Coach, here, I'll let you set this up in terms of what South Carolina. Listen, I mean, you're 0-3, yes. And in two of the games, you really struggled. But you acquitted yourselves pretty well against a very, very, very strong Auburn team. What do they do next? But I know one of the things you were looking at was what they can do defensively.
Yes. I mean, this was, after the Mississippi State and Alabama games, Lamont would allude to a couple of instances where his guys maybe didn't follow the defensive principles that is a core part of what he teaches, right? Every team has defensive principles, defensive rules, so to speak. Like, Mississippi State is one of those teams, like, they're one of their rules. They want to keep you on the sideline and will give you the baseline, and they don't want to give you the middle of the floor, right? Every coach, every team has those defensive principles. And based off some of the stuff that he's said over the years, you can kind of get a glimpse as to what Lamont's are. Like, one thing is, you can get screened, but you don't stay screened, right? And there were a couple of I noticed during the game. Morris specifically was really good at not staying screened. So I noticed that they followed some of those defensive principles a lot better against Auburn than they did in those first two games. So I asked Lamont about what he thought about them following those principles, and this was his response.
We did a really good job with that. Some of it is basic DNA rules for us, and then some of them are tweaked to a scouting report. So you'll see a couple of things that they scored on that are a play that they have, right? You think about it, and so you do a scouting report, you show the plays that they run, but Bruce Pearl has certain plays he runs, I have certain plays. Every team has a couple of plays that they run, and they don't choose to run the plays that don't work. They choose to run the plays that work. So those plays are mainly going to work. I hope we can stop one or two of them, make the shot a little more difficult. They mainly work. So, you can see some of that. We did a much better job in terms of our rules following. There still are a couple, like, Colin gets driven baseline by, I think it was Janai Broom for a layup there. Those are things, a baseline drive, straight line baseline drive. Like, we don't do that. We're not supposed to do that anyway. So there were still a few, but significantly better job of it, and that's why I think we were able to do. And we fought on the glass, and we rebounded, and we were physical. I don't think we backed down in some of those aggressive moves that they made towards the basket, and because of that, you're able to hold an extremely effective offensive group that's also very talented. I mean, you look at them, even some of their first shots were not easy shots, but they made them. That's what really good players do. And so I thought we did a good job overall, really good job of sticking to our principles and hopefully learning that, hey, these things work. This is who we need to be. Let's try that again.
When you see what you saw, Elijah Campbell, on Saturday and attempt to apply that looking forward, assuming that's not some kind of one-off where, just sometimes you just play well.
Right.
Did you see enough, and knowing that they're down two starters due to injury, did you see enough to say, okay, that there's a turnaround? Or, again, would you liken it more to a one-off against a great team where you just played out of your head?
I still need to see it again. Yeah. This is one of those, I need to see this for Vanderbilt. It's one thing to have that chip on your shoulder underdog mentality, playing against a team that's the best team in college basketball, down two starters, you have an adrenaline rush, and you're able to absolutely bust tail for the 30 minutes that you're in the game, right? And a lot of these guys in this game got more minutes than they're accustomed to. Like Arden Conyers played 30 minutes this game. Has he played a cumulative 30 minutes all year? I don't know. But he played a lot of minutes in this game, a lot of adrenaline, right? Morris played 32 minutes. He was not playing 32 minutes a game, right? There's a lot of extra minutes being divvied out here, and you're going to have to be able to turn around and do it again for spurts of adrenaline, inspiration, whatever it may be. It's easier to get up for a game against the number one team in the country because you know that type of task and the opportunity it provides. But what about a Vanderbilt team that is 13-3, not sexy, is Vanderbilt? I mean, there's not like a ton of name recognition there in the last decade and a half to give you that boost that you would for a number one team, but it's still a very good team. And a game that is on the road in a conference where you are having to scratch and claw for every win. Can you take advantage of that? At least a significantly more winnable game on paper. Can you carry that over into a game like that? That's my biggest question. And if they do, then I like your chances at maybe stealing some down the road.
That's our drive around the SEC, brought to you by Herndon Chevy. Come back on the other side. A week from tonight, the CFP final. Can it set a record? I'll tell you what the number to beat is when the postgame show returns. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the postgame show here on this Monday. Jay and Elijah with you. A couple of things to close it out for you. First off, let me get to this as we were just talking Carolina basketball, and then I'll give you the numbers on the championship game. Ryan hits us on Twitter. Says, I'm not over it yet, and I probably missed you talking about it already, but you didn't because we haven't, but we are now. But in your opinion, he says, was that last Nick Pringle jump ball a jump ball, or should it have been a timeout? Obviously, I'm asking because I'm of the opinion that was clearly a timeout, and we should have maintained possession. Yeah, nice little scramble play very late in the game. Great hustle from Nick. And Auburn did have the possession arrow in their favor after Carolina had gotten one a couple of minutes prior. I hate to disappoint you, Ryan. I think they made the right call because it's a very bang-bang subjective call. And one of the things about being able to secure a ball and call timeout is that you have had to secure the ball on your own. And I think as they looked at it right there, I think one guy was sort of 50-50, but another instantly went jump ball.
Yeah, the one on the baseline whose call it is to make is the one.
And he instantly, he put his 2 thumbs up and he said jump ball. I have never been a huge fan of the possession arrow. And I realize it was enacted really as much for expediency as a lot of things in both high school and college basketball. And I've not advocated for what I'm getting ready to say as much, and Elijah's never heard me say this before because it just doesn't come up very often. But since it did the other day, and I've seen instances of it where I think, in the final, let's say, 2 minutes of a basketball game. I don't want to go final half or 10 minute but in the final 2 minutes, when there's going to be plays like that, I'm just using 2 minutes. It could be 3, 4, 5, I don't know, not the final 30 seconds or something, but give it enough time. Let's go back to a jump ball.
Oh, I'd love that.
Because
I would love that.
Because guys really are, I think, at that point in the game, I think you really do often have scrambles for the ball where, because I told you, and I believe this, and I got no problem with this. A coach, in this case, I said, Bruce told him, hey, you go after anyone you get because it's going to be our ball. At that point, it becomes too strategic. And there are other instances of things like that in sports where I'm like, if you're counting upon it as part of what you're doing in timeout, I don't know that I like that because I think it takes away. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see college basketball adopt a rule change, a rule tweak. Final 2 minutes, and then it would extend, obviously, into the full overtime, should that be necessary. But in the final 2 minutes of regulation, let's go back to a jump ball. NBA seems to be fine with a jump ball. One of the biggest plays in South Carolina basketball history. Now, it happened, I think, when I was in diapers, but it was a jump ball where one dude was like way taller than the other dude, and the shorter dude got the jump ball, and Carolina ends up winning the game. Things like that. And that's just a local angle. I'm sure there are plenty of places around the country where that happens, or just that's just it. And it's the two players that were scrambling for the ball. You don't get to choose them. That's how a jump ball works. Mm-hmm. But let's do that. I love that. I don't think it's problematic. Again, overall, I get why you've done it for the entire game and the entire season, blah, blah, blah. But I think there's an element of the sport that could be returned to us if they were to put that back.
Or it'd be really fun if you got to choose the other team's player to jump. They had to be on the floor at the play.
Right.
So it has to be one of the 5 guys to the other team that was on the floor of the play, barring injury. You pick their jumper, they pick your jumper.
That'd be fun. But see, that would take too much time. Then somebody would say, we can't do that. Just let's go back to it. I got no problem with that. But Ryan, I hate to disappoint you, but no, I do believe they made the correct call.
I think so too. Yeah. It's just one of those things.
It's so bang bang.
The baseline officials looking at it, and if Auburn player has a hand on it, this isn't football where you have to have sole possession. If there's like one hand in there, still fighting it out. If the referee sees that and can conclude that you don't have full possession, all he has to do is jump ball, and he's got the right to do that. It's such a subjective call that we can pick at it all we want, but we'll just be splitting hairs. We'll drive ourselves crazy.
Finally, and again, we have lots of time to break it down because the game is not for one more week. But with Notre Dame getting ready to play Ohio State, might we be in for the most watched college football championship game ever? When Oregon played Ohio State now, I guess, 11 years ago, right?
That had been 10.
10 years. I guess 10 years, yeah. 14 season.
Yep.
So 10 years
January
ago. Yeah. That was the most watched ever at 33.4 million, which is a lot of people for a college football game. Now, NFL playoff games like championship weekend, they'll get like 45, 50 million. And obviously, Super Bowl is a whole different animal. It doesn't even count. But I think we might, man.
We can. I mean, Ohio State, Notre Dame, massive fan bases.
Yeah.
The curiosity of a championship.
A lot of hate for both. Like, I want to see one of them lose.
Hate watching.
Yeah.
A real thing.
Yeah. So we'll see. 33.4 is the number. We'll do it again tomorrow. See y'all. And finally, one more note from our good friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. Love your home. Love where you've been living neighborhood-wise for many, many years, but know it's time to get a little fixer-upper going, especially after the holidays. Now's a great time to take advantage of some fantastic rates and great people to work with at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union and one of their home equity lines of credit. When you unlock your home's equity, you can access that line of credit over a 10-year draw period. So figure out how much equity is there. Figure out how much it is that you can borrow total, and then say, all right, let's do the kitchen now. Let's do a bathroom later. Maybe let's build a deck out back, little space for everybody to relax and enjoy. Whatever the needs are, you can do it for less money than with the big banks, because at Palmetto Citizens, they're not for profit, and they return their earnings to members in the form of lower rates and fewer fees. So apply today. Learn more about how this could help you and your family. PalmettoCitizens.org is the website. 14 convenient Midlands locations. I'm a member. My wife's a member. Palmetto Citizens. Check them out.